Hello, YouTubers. So now we are back at the other location. Now we are not at our former location, and mainly on this YouTube video, I just want to sit down and talk with you guys about the podcast because we had just recently had our first anniversary this past Sunday, as this recording and as the release of this video, and also, we have just done a lot of stuff to support the podcast. We hyped up a bunch of episodes, and now we came to the part where now it all lead up to like Sand Sunday. And then now we're gonna start having more podcast episodes be released every Wednesday to limit my time because I do be busy with schoolwork. So mainly on Tuesdays I'll be working on the podcast and on YouTube videos because this video is being released on a Wednesday. So yeah, mainly you know, for the podcast I always have my episodes be released every Wednesday, and bonus episodes will be released on the weekends. It will only be optional though. It won't be all the way confirmed. But those will be the release days that bonus episodes will be released because they won't be released during the weekdays. Not at all. And only one episode per week. And also with the YouTubing, y'all need to know that schedule because that schedule is very private and secure to me. And whenever I release videos, I'll get them released. I can't tell you the exact date or anything because I don't like to promise my YouTubers because I am more focused and it's more somewhat easier to release and publish your content through podcasting instead of through via YouTube because you got to go through a lot of process such as downloading the gigabytes, the computer, even the thumbnail because that's the most effort you got to put in is the thumbnails on these videos. It's a lot of stuff. With podcasting, all you got to do is just get a nice graphic picture, theme picture for that episode, pat it on there, press that button, boop, you release that episode, or either you press it so it can premiere the next day or so ever on that certain day, and boop, it's released. But with a YouTube channel, it's a lot more. But let me not get too far and too deep in. What we're mainly talking about is why I started a podcast, and mainly, not why, because I already made a video on why, but mainly how it all started and just everything, because this episode is mainly going to be centered around the podcast. So let's get to it. So, how it all started was in 2019 of November. I had met this nice young man named Jeremiah Patterson. He has a podcast as well called the Jeremiah Patterson Show where he discusses news, politics, history, and he also has a YouTube channel called the Jeremiah Patterson Show. So we'll check that out. And a second channel is called just Jeremiah Patterson. And yeah, I met him in November because he was one of our new students because he came, from a different state, and eventually I talked to him. I got to know him, and then he started talking about podcasting. I didn't know what it was till, December, I think. Or I think he did talk about when he first came about podcasting. I was like, what the heck is a podcast? And then I asked him that question. He told me, well, hey, Brendan, a podcast is somewhat of like a YouTube channel, but you just release episodes of where you somewhat of listen instead of just watch like what you're doing now. You're watching my content, but on a podcast, you're actually listening to my content. But then I realized, that what he was doing, it seemed like it was kind of interesting because I checked it out. I didn't really get all in depth. I just checked it out and it's a podcast. I said, this will confusing. I said, I'll check this out maybe later. But then December, though, I said, before I even research anything, I was just saying, I wonder if I can start a podcast. Yeah, that's what I asked. I wonder if I can start a podcast, if I can do this and that, if I can make this, if I can make great content. And it all didn't come out one day. I had to really, really sit down and figure out what to do and what to do. But eventually it came to me through spring, but let's still be in chronological order. The idea was conceived in December. January, I was still thinking of it. I was still a little touchy on it. I didn't really want to really do that. I was still touchy on January. February, I was getting more confident, saying maybe I should, because I don't want to copy him or be a copycat. And I was realizing, if a podcast is a podcast, I can be creative with it and have my own thinking of it and not have Jeremiah's thinking. Because now that I realize it, when I saw it during 2020, his podcast is mainly about politics. And with me, I'm not a politics guy. I am very creative and I like to make creative episodes. So what I did is I made creative episodes. And March when the pandemic started. I did it. I started a podcast. I created it, and it was called. I was figuring out a bunch of names because that whole weekend before I started, I was figuring out a bunch of names in that week. Brendan's Den of Knowledge, Brendan's Book of Knowledge, Brendan's Books of Den, just different names, and eventually came up to where it was called Brendan Brown's Collections of Facts and Theories podcast show. And ever since then, that's how the name's been. And I started it on March 21st, 2020. That was a Saturday, I believe. And that's the same day my uncle and auntie got married. So, hey, that's good. But yeah. And eventually, after that, I started. The first episode was late at night because I asked my mother, I should say, about should I start podcast. She was saying no, 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 no. But she never understand what it was. I don't blame her because I didn't understand at first what it was too. But I already understand the concepts because like months prior to that I was already doing it. Like that was March 2020, December 2019. I already knew about it. So 2 months prior I already knew, and I started it, and eventually it was doing good, and my mother was happy I did, and eventually grandparents figured it. Well, grandmother figured out when she figured who am I talking to, because I'm not talking to no one else, because I was just keeping that little secret because, and I mean it's nothing sneaky or nothing. This podcast is something okay, but I try to keep it, not as big because I don't want everyone to know my business, and certain people don't need to know my business yet until it comes. Which you should know, YouTubers, as my audience, you should understand, and everyone in general should know that we all want personal space and want to keep projects very quiet until they get very big and released. But yeah, during the summer, really much grow, especially with George Floyd, especially with that. And speaking of crises, I am going to start making a podcast episode maybe next Wednesday, or maybe make a bonus episode this weekend about that Asian crisis that we've been dealing with and the Denver crisis that just happened recently this week. But yeah, just mainly that. And also, back to the story, the podcast had been growing. Then in August, I met this man named Alan Levi Simmons. He has a YouTube channel right now called The Purpose Pod. He's currently on a break as of this recording, but he could be back, so who knows. But yeah, like I was just saying, that's how it was. And just with, excuse me for the camera, just with, that, it was interesting and very amazing to meet him. And he came to my former middle school, but at the time I was still, not in high school. I just graduated 8th grade, and he was going to my former middle school, and that's how I got to meet him through via social media, because I had a Instagram account since 2020, because I wanted to make one to promote the Word of God. But eventually, I watched his podcast before he took this break, and his podcast is very amazing, and I was looking at it, and it gave me great inspiration every every Tuesday night to just do it and do it. And then eventually, October or September, I started monetizing, and I monetized. And also, I had gotten a free shirt that I wanted to give away and a book from Kendra Logan. Go follow her. She's another one who's a good person, good entrepreneur in the reading side, and I enjoyed her book. Never finished it, but finished the first. Started reading the first half, and it's very interesting. And yeah, after that, November was my birthday. November, nothing really big happened. But December, that's where it all happened. December of 2020. That's when the idea conceived of me wanting to rebrand my podcast and to do the theme that I'm doing now, which is self-improvement. Yeah. And watching Nige Simmons, because his, let me get this all straightened out. Al Levi Simmons, the same guy I tell you has a Purpose Pod. I looked at his video, and not his video, his Instagram account, and I went there, and I saw a story, and it showed his cousin called Nige Simmons, who was host of this so-called, at the time I thought it was, the No Job Podcast. I was like, what the heck is a No Job Podcast? I said, these are just other people. He's just always networking, showing. I said, I'm not going to go to this guy. Then my mind was just thinking, God must be hitting my brain, because I looked at him and I was like, hold on. This guy looks kind of interesting. Let me go check him out. And I just swiped my phone, look on there. Saw about it. He didn't have as much info because it was just starting. And it seemed kind of interesting, and I said, "Oh, let's go check it out when it premieres in January." And so, moving on to next month, I did want to go check it out. And ever since I went to go check it out, the idea came of me rebranding my podcast, and eventually I made it. And well, not remade, not make it. I remade it because I wanted to rebrand. I kept looking at the No Job podcast, and in February or either this year, this month, March, he stopped, take a break, and he'll come back for season 2. But he's been doing great. And Alan Levi Simmons, I think the last time he made an episode was either December 2020 or January, but he's coming back soon. He's on a very short break, which was 3 months, I guess, but he'll come back soon. But with No Job podcast, and IG Simmons, really young man really inspired me to do better. And watching him when he interviewed this guy called David DeShile from either, I think it was January or February, one of his episodes, he really interviewed that guy. I looked at his social, and ever since that day I did get texts from him. Now, even as of now, I still be getting texts early in the morning, motivational or just something to keep me up or be disciplined, because I really acknowledge it. And it's good that I have all these people in my life that I can help networking wise and my career wise, and in my passion and desires wise, such as Alan Levi Simmons being an entrepreneur and a podcaster. IG Simmons being an upcoming entrepreneur of his podcast and promoting his own podcast through monetizing. Also, David DeShile, entrepreneur, podcaster, who has his own website, just like me and Alan Levi Simmons and IG. We all 4 of us can get along. And the great thing is that I am the young man, and that who knows what God can do to allow me to grow my content at a young age. Because, like I said, they may be older, but look at this. Look at me. Not being a narcissist, but look at me. A young man doing a podcast, monetizing, knowing about finances, investing in stock markets. So many things. That is shocking. And especially for me being a black man. Sorry for calling that out. But I'm just being honest. Especially for me being a black man. It's very amazing. It's very amazing. But, yeah, after that, March came by. And the whole year, this whole new year, I just kept on rebranding by hyping up new episodes during February. And yeah, ever since then, after the premiere came, it lead to where we're at now, where we're making this YouTube video. But yeah, that's basically it, how it all was with the podcast and everything. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and just have a blessed, wonderful day.